Hello again and welcome to RP-0 America. So we've got these two astronauts again up in orbit, and they've been up for a pretty good amount of time, definitely record-breaking. Let's see, so I think that will be, stay in space for 60 days. They're actually pretty nearly there. Time to well, that math doesn't work out, but okay. Let's maybe time warp them that remaining 35 days. So let's set an alarm, so a manual alarm with Kerbal alarm clock. So let's see which one of you is Kerbal alarm clock. That's you. Add a raw alarm, raw time alarm for, what is it, 35 days and change? Okay, so let's go with 35 days, 1 hour. Have to pull up the whole thing. Add alarm. All right. Now let's go back down to the surface and let them run through that time. So I moved all the science over to their capsule. Everything's ready to go. So we're going to do the retrograde burn, which will bring us both the station and the crew back into the atmosphere. So we didn't create this as a multi-visit space station. Just the one visit will be good enough. Something like a really big station, like International Space Station or Skylab is built pretty big with lots of hardware. Oh, look, no water this time, or water looking a little weird at least. All right, some of those space stations were made with enough supplies, food, water, etc., so that more than just the one visit could be accomplished. Although, later on, like with the Russian stations, they sent up a station with kind of a medium amount of supplies, but also with the faculties to be autonomously resupplied. So, uncrewed craft could be sent up and docked to the craft, which would contain supplies that the next human crew coming up could use. There's a number of ways to set up a station for longer missions like that. All right, so we're coming down to the alarm there, and so it should pop up. It would pop up, so I can tell to jump to ship, which is, I don't usually use that, in particular because I create a lot of these alarms just with kind of a dummy ship. So I don't usually want to jump back to the ship, but in this case, that is a useful feature. Long load times. One of the reasons I want to complete the Mars Direct with just kind of sandbox without the RP-0 on it is just it takes up a bit more RAM, makes everything a bit slower, just all the mods that are additionally required for RP-0. Oh, and interestingly enough, it did something fun with the clouds. That's great. Alright, I don't remember if that fixes... Oof. No clouds from this view at all. Well, that's fun. It just happens sometimes. Well, hopefully the clouds will... actually, is there a way to... Can I fix this through here? Map Eve clouds. Nope. Reload shader buffers? Let's see. Nope, nothing. Alright, that's alright. But yeah, not showing the clouds. So this is around where, actually, I'm pretty close to where I want to come down. Let's just make sure that carried out. Let's see. Crew duration 60 days, stay in, time to completion 3 minutes. Good. So when we're out here at the apoapsis, warp to here, we will do our retrograde burn. I no longer need that clock. Come on. There we go. Put those back there. So we look like we've completed it, right? Time to go. Oh, right, yes, we completed the 60 days. Now it's giving us the 90-day record information. Oh, weird. So it doesn't take the time from the previous one. This only starts up. I'll have to note that down and mention that to PAP, see if there's a way to correct that. Let's see. After duration record is completed, one pops up. Doesn't account for time already spent. Okay. So yeah, I'd have to spend a whole another 90 days, which I don't think they have the life support for, or it's, barely have the food, so they'd be 10 days into starvation at that point. So we're here at the apoapsis, so we want to be oriented retrograde, which I think we already are. And now we want to kind of plan the burn. We want to go until our periapsis is negative. So let's just go back to just having the data. All right, and the engines need to ullage until the fuel is stable. Okay, so now the engines are ready to go. So I light them up. Don't need the RCS. Come on, don't need the RCS. All right, so I'm just going to run this until this is negative. Let's say negative 30 or something. It's a pretty gentle burn, just half a G. So these burns take some time, which is handy because if you're doing things manually, you have more time to fine tune. Okay, and wait till we're about minus 30, let's say. All right, looks good to me. And according to the numbers, let's see how it actually looks on the map of Earth. And I believe, yeah, we're still going to be hitting the water, which is what we want. Oh, nice. And I have trajectory up. So it's showing when I'm going to actually be bitten by the atmosphere. It's kind of showing that the fact that the blue and white lines aren't overlaid is representing the frame of reference where the Earth is rotated a bit. And so that's why it's, that's how much the Earth is going to rotate between where we are then and now. So that's actually where on the map it's predicting we will hit. Although that's ballistic, I think. And so we'll actually be probably hitting a little bit downrange. I'm not exactly sure how much more, but yeah, it's still safe waters. And this is definitely going to deorbit the station, which is nice. Let's just do a quick save. And we want to make sure the crew are in here. No crew. Okay. So I need to transfer the crew. Don't remember if, let's see, transfer crew. Transfer. I don't know if it'll let me manually directly do it. Oh, it looks like it wasn't so bad. All right, and then transfer crew, remaining person. There we go. So now the station is empty. So let's make sure there's enough life support supplies in here. There is not. All right, so let's bring some food over, water, oxygen, and fill up the waste containers where we're leaving them. Oh, stop. Let's basically move the stuff to where the humans are. Transfer out. So whatever this is, lithium hydroxide is filling up. Nice. So the life support supplies for the Gemini capsule. There are ways to manage that without having to do the transfer. Like you could lock these containers at some point if you like. That's one way to do it. I don't recall if all these resources obey priority, but you could set up the resource flow priorities so that they come from certain things and not others. All right, and we'll have plenty of electricity. We even have nice electricity there. They have water, right? Water 8. It's not a ton, but that's okay. Humans don't need water like all the time. They can go a little thirsty if they run out of that. All right, but beyond that, we're done with the station. So let's see, undock. Nice. It's a nice clean separation. And the station's still going to come into the atmosphere as well. So I think the sun's, oh no, the sun is staying up. All right, so we'll just let this wander a bit until we're at, I think was that over, I'm assuming this is over Russia or Asia. So look in the direction we're going. This looks like South Asia. All right, so we're starting to descend pretty speedily, almost a kilometer a second. So let's just get retrograde again. I'd prefer if this RCS was running, but yet it's lacking NTO, so fair enough. So we just have, it's not a lot of RCS, but we'll survive, we'll manage. Okay, so we're already in position. Basically, if we had had trouble, if we were not in the orbit we wanted to at this point, we could make a correction using the RCS on this. Any interesting information? Not really. Or we could also use the standard solid unit on this to slow us down, but we don't need those, so we're just going to decouple them, and we're doing that a little bit in advance to give that a chance to physically wander away from us, and I'm just going to try to catch it when we're pointed in the right direction. There we go. And the clouds are unfortunately going to do crazy things. I don't remember, is it Alt-E or Control? No. Yeah, sorry, I don't remember which command is the one that would allow me to just delete or erase the clouds. Is it G? Maybe it is G. There we go. No, that's 1. Alt-G if you want to mess with whatever controller this is. That's not the one I want. Alright, so I want to use the RCS to control it. Yeah, sometimes the clouds do that weirdness. They're just not mapping in the right direction or dimension. Okay, so we're still coming down at almost a kilometer a second. It's actually decreasing because we're probably past the halfway point between the apoapsis and the periapsis. So the clouds will go back to appearing normal once we go through the transition altitude. There we go. Went through the transition altitude. I might adjust that as well, at least for my install. So I set it so that kind of various bugs are showing up in from the debug log. So we were coming from a fairly high altitude. The apoapsis is pretty high. Therefore, we are also coming in at a pretty high speed. Not terribly fast though. Not compared to, say, the speed we came in at. Let's just get rid of you. Not compared to the speed we came at coming back from the moon, which we did with the Gemini capsule. So they should be just fine. I don't think I have. Let's see. I don't have descent mode on, so it should be correcting. I'll just peg that open over there. It should be correcting to retrograde, but because it's such a low acceleration at this point, there's not a lot of force causing it to correct. Let's see, and I want to just make sure it's not overheating. Okay, good. And there we go. So now we're past 5% of the G, so we're getting some decent entry heating, starting to get decent entry deceleration. And now I will turn on descent mode. Turn descent mode on. Alright, so it's actually kind of, right now it's angled in a way that it's dragging me down. If you kind of consider what's happening with the heat shield, it is pushing air up rather than down. So you equal and opposite reaction. So here the air is bouncing off the heat shield going down, which gives us a lift. So you can see that's that impact that's having there. And I wonder, can I manage this? Let's see. Docking, flight recorder, mark reset, acceleration and altitude. There we go. So we're still increasing in acceleration. Of course, these directly scale the amount of acceleration and the dynamic pressure, Q. Angle of attack would probably be wobbling back and forth a little bit. Pitch would be fairly steady, I think. Yeah, so acceleration is still increasing. We're hitting a pretty high acceleration here, actually, for a controlled entry. It's a little higher than we'd usually aim for. That's okay, they can survive. Actually, I have the kind of stock gravity function on here, so too much gravity would cause them to lose consciousness, or this bar would start creeping up. But even though 5Gs is definitely physically uncomfortable, kind of in the orientation they are, that suits and hardware they're in, it's not going to cause them to lose consciousness. So that's all right. So there we go. So you can see the G-forces are dipping off, and I'll just change the scale of this so we'll be able to see it all the way. And so we haven't bounced yet, so you can see the altitude hasn't completely leveled off, but it nearly has. See, and now we're kind of moving so slow that the amount of lift we're making isn't enough to keep us at the same altitude. But as we've slowed down, there's quite a bit of, even though we've leveled off in altitude, quite a decrease in the acceleration. So it's just going to naturally roll a little bit. I should probably get it back in the right orientation, because see, now we're falling through the air, and the air is thickening as we fall into it. And so that's going to cause an increase in our acceleration. And that's why it's jumped back up there. So this is the kind of shape that I always think of as a bounced, as a skip entry. But it's, as I think Egg pointed out originally, is correct. It's not technically a skip entry because we didn't leave the atmosphere at all. There is at least one entry I've done, I'm pretty sure, that was an actual skip entry, or very close to it, where we were out to 150 kilometers or something like that. And I've seen a couple other people do it as well, in particular Cosmonaut Crash. I believe at some point did a very skippy reentry. So now if I stretch it out here, you can see it just kind of levels off, approaching 1G. And so I can get rid of, don't go away like that. I can turn off descent mode, not really important. So if you want to be all accurate about it, oh come on, I should be able to open that, no? I want to open the resource management panel, but it's not letting me do that. I wonder if these use the same, no. Yeah, it's lighting up, but in reality, you don't want to bring these chemicals back, so they had them react, not to actually cause thrust, they just vented the chemicals before the vehicles landed. At least I know they did that with Mercury. They got rid of the high test peroxide, but I assume they did that with Gemini and other things as well. One of the last operations the crew would be carrying out as they come down would be to vent the remaining propellants. Since these aren't useful, they're just kind of actually dangerous toxic chemicals at this point. Alright, so we're entering into the clouds. You can kind of see them puffing up a bit. That really hurts the frame rate, but I still like the look. Okay, so we've descended probably far enough, moving slow enough. Hopefully I can tick and have that come off and stay off. Well, it looks like it did. Nice. It kind of went out of the wind shadow, the aerodynamic shadow of the vehicle, and then caught the wind and went away, which is what you'd hope to happen. And then I can probably trigger the drogue chute and zoom out a bit. Just let these guys get left in the wind. Ooh, weird. You go far enough. Oh, nice. The drogue. We were pretty much at the altitude where the drogue cut anyway, so drogue slowed us a little bit and then went away, and now we open the full parachute, which slows us down all the way, I think. Yeah, it's open to full parachutiness now. So the crew, after being up on the International Space Station for quite some time, like, was it, did they do 90 days? Yeah, so, or 60 days, 90 days. Yeah, they did 30 days and then another 60 days. So about so they're up there for 3 months. So that is a 0G duration record for our astronauts. Congratulations to them. Very first space station mission, and it'll be the last mission, at least for a little bit, that I carry out within this RP-0 career, because I have the idea of how I want to carry out the rest of kind of my plan towards putting people on the surface of Mars. But kind of configuring all the parts for RP-0 and realism overhaul, just as you see from the release of the videos, takes a lot of time. And so I'm going to just kind of make sure I have them configured right and carry them out, I think, in a sandbox mode rather than trying to making sure they fit into this specific career mode series. So probably be another playlist, but I'll be posting those soon. And I already had the craft ready for the first ISRU test on the surface of Mars that I tested previously. I just kind of did it for a personal test. I was surprised it worked, and so I was just recording it for some of the information, and so I'll kind of clip it down and probably post it as the first video of that series. It's more or less, I have it ready for this career mode as well. So basically the last thing I was recording for this series, the first thing for that one, so it'll probably be the first video in that playlist, I'm thinking. Whoa, is this the second safe position? I remember if Gemini was actually capable of that. Of being safe and stable upside down like this, but maybe. I know Apollo had that second position it was capable of, but I don't know about Gemini. But yeah, let's recover these two new record-breaking astronauts. So I've done quite a bit of design work on one of the two vehicles required for Mars Direct, if I can end up getting everything within the mass requirements of a Saturn V or a slightly advanced Saturn V. But I've got the return vehicle. Like, if you've watched The Martian, it's basically the MAV but on steroids, because it doesn't just bring the crew from the surface to Mars orbit, it actually produces enough fuel and is capable of taking them from the surface of Mars back towards Earth, returning them to Earth. So I'll probably show that off as the first heavy-duty thing. Nice, congratulations on the science and the stuff. And they've advanced to level 1 exclamation mark. All right. Yeah, so that's probably the first really heavy-duty craft I'll be showing off, because I've done a lot of tweaking and design work. I've got a couple variants of that that I might look at both of them. Yeah, that's the thing that requires the most design, configuring for my Mars Direct mission, is that crew return vehicle. Lands autonomously on the surface of Mars, produces fuel, and then a crew will get into it later and then return to Earth. And then there's the tin can HAB lab as well, which I haven't started constructing, but it's a bit more simple. It doesn't have to. It just has to land. It doesn't have to bring people back from the surface of Mars. It just has to successfully land a crew on the surface of Mars. But yeah, thanks for watching. This has been RP-0 America. Goodbye.